Okay, hello, good morning. Thank you, Samantha, for joining me. Thank you, Margin. So this morning, I am actually just reflecting. I'm reflecting on a lot of things that are going on. I looked at, Creators Insights, and I see that there's a whole lot of discussion going on around children with special needs, autism generally. It's been over 10 years I have been supporting neurodivergent children, but there has been this unprecedented, rise in number of children needing support. We don't know what is happening. We don't even know how to go about it, because even as of today, science has not pinpointed what might be happening. What we know is that there is definitely something that has changed about what goes into our body, what is in the air, what's I don't know, I don't understand what is happening, but what I know definitely is that families, especially parents, are going through terrible time. Yes, out here in the UK, they don't like saying challenges or troublesome or all of this, but I tell you, this is real. It is real torment, real trauma for parents. I know mothers that would be awake and cry all night, you know. Hello? Sorry, can you put off the music, please?
Good morning,
Good morning. How are you? You're Felix, yeah? Felix Best.
ma.
What do you do, Felix Best?
Okay, I'm an engineer.
Okay. Today we are actually talking about children with special needs. We are talking about children with autism. Do you know any child that has autism around you?
No, 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 no.
Okay. So maybe this may not be your thing. I don't know. If you want to stay around, that's a choice. But what we are talking about today is that children with special needs, the incidence is rising. A lot of families are in their need of help, because many families. Someone called me yesterday, and the woman was saying that for days they have not slept in their house because the child wouldn't sleep. And then on so many occasions, when these children are not sleeping, of course, the families are not sleeping because they are crying, they are disturbed. Apparently, something is bothering them, because it's unusual for a child not to sleep when it is time for sleeping. So, but what we are saying this morning is that yes, the awareness is there, people can identify it, people know that this is going on, but what are the available means of support that they have? How do we help these parents? How do we support them to find to find a balance? Because I tell you, when this thing attacks a family, it doesn't just stop at that family. It attacks both extended family, the community, the schools. A lot of children on the spectrum who are in mainstream school, from time to time, their need usually would disrupt classes. And don't tell me it doesn't matter. It does. Their needs will disrupt classes. Sometimes they go into meltdown. Sometimes they just need that extra support. And this is, even if your child is not on the spectrum, it is affecting the child's studies too. Even if you think it is not happening to you, your child goes to school and they share the same environment with these children, it is also affecting them. And what we have observed is that even in families, uh, even apart from immediate family, it affects extended families. When a grandparent come into a home and she or he cannot relate with their children, hello, hello, it's me, Devo. Okay, so I am saying it affects people even when they think it's not affecting them. Let's say a grandparent comes into your home and they want to interact with their grandchildren, and the child cannot interact, the child cannot communicate. Some of them, they can't even allow you to touch them. So how does one feel that you've gone to see your grandparents and nothing, you've gone to see your grandchild and you don't have that interaction? Many of them cannot even communicate. Many of them cannot tell, okay, grandma welcome or grandpa welcome. In fact, we have seen many of them that don't even know who their mother is. They don't even recognize their mother as a mother. They don't even recognize their father as a father. And the ugly part is that a lot of the parents, a lot of times, I'm not saying all of the time, the men mostly feel like it is the fault of the women. And this is very, very unfair. The men would get up and begin to accuse the wife. Are you even sure I'm the father of this child? Where did you get this child from? How is it that my child is like this? Oh, Liz, yes, we are talking about children with special needs, children with autism especially, because when you see maybe a child with cerebral palsy, you know that this child has issues. Yeah, when you see a child with probably Down syndrome, you know that this child has issues. But when you see a child with autism, if you understand English, just say yes. Otherwise, I can only speak English, okay? So when you see a child with cerebral palsy, you see that the legs, the hands, or other parts of the body is not functional, and then you understand clearly that this child has challenges. When you see a child with Down syndrome, of course, from the facial, expression, you see immediately that this child has problem. But when you see a child with autism, yeah, of course, I know some children with cerebral palsy and Down syndrome have comorbidities. But when you see a child with autism, you see a child that is perfectly, looking okay. Most times they are very pretty and handsome children. And you will see a child so well, looking well dressed and all that. And then you want to talk to them. They are talking back at you. Some of them you say, how are you? And then they say, how are you? Some of them say, what is your name? And they say, what is your name? And you're like, are you okay? Are you okay? Like, didn't your mother teach you to respond to people the right way? So a lot of times it's frustrating both for outsiders and even family members, because in so many cases you practically don't understand what is happening to this child. So that's why we are saying today that it's a huge problem. I remember when I was doing my master's in food and human nutrition, I wanted to study. I wanted to research on uh, anything that is related to autism, and my supervisor told me that, look, it's not significant. It's not a significant uh, public health concern. And I said, really? This is what a lot of people think. It's not a significant public health concern. But right here now, I am telling you, I want to tell you how it affects people. So it doesn't just affect the family. It affects, okay, let's talk about the siblings. It affects the siblings in a big way, such that a lot of the siblings are being diagnosed of anxiety. A lot of siblings are being diagnosed of depression. Why? Because they go through a form of stigma. When they go out, they don't want others to feel like their brother is not well behaved. They don't want others to see like that their sisters are not well behaved. Sometimes they deny them. It's not because they are being wicked, but they are just being, normal children. Sometimes they deny their brothers, they deny their sisters who are on the autism spectrum, because they don't want to. Nobody, yeah, normally nobody wants to be identified with something that is not perfect. So, and I believe this is also what happens to a lot of fathers too, that tend to just switch off from children like this. So the point you are making is that this problem is not just affecting only the child, it is not just affecting only the mother, it affects the siblings, it affects the grandparents, it affects extended families. I know that some extended families sometimes they say, I don't want to go to that house because I don't understand how that their child behaves. In fact, as soon as your child, a child on the autism spectrum starts, growing, and people start recognizing the challenges, you start losing people, you start losing your social life, everything starts crunching. Number one, you won't even want to go to gatherings. As a parent, you don't want to take this child out, because every time you go out, it's either a problem, or you don't like the way people are looking at him or her. You don't like the way the child is behaving in a public. Sometimes they close their ears. They just don't want. For you that is young, I am telling you this, I pray like it never comes near you ever. And then I am also telling you that if you happen to see any parent, any family, anybody at all that is going through this, the best you can do.
Nigeria.
Pardon?
That's no, 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 not you.
Okay. So if you happen to see anybody anywhere that is going through this, the best you can do is to support them. The best you can do is to be kind. Even if you don't know what to say, just don't look and don't talk. Don't side eye or discriminate, because like I said, this cannot be seen. Sometimes you won't just see it by looking at the child, but when this child are behaving, all you have to do is, if the mother needs support, you can support. But if the mother doesn't need the support, don't judge, because that judgment is like a spear on the heart of the mother, because only heaven knows how much she has done or he has done at home, behind the scene, trying to get that child right. I have a call now. Just a minute. I may have to pause. Okay, sorry. Okay, sorry. I needed to attend to that. So what we are saying is, a lot of times these children don't show. It doesn't show they have any challenges. It doesn't show in their legs, in their hand, or in their head, or in their face. You don't get to see nothing. But when they behave, it becomes apparent that this child is not neurotypical. We also try not to say normal, because at the end of the day, I don't think there's anybody that is normal. So we say a child is either neurotypical or neurodivergent. So the point now is, how do we support these children? How do we support them? How do we make them have the best they can, you know, have in terms of what life has to offer? If you can just tap the screen for me, please, so that more people can join, because what we are teaching is really affecting a whole lot of people. So what we need to learn this morning is, how do we support these children to live the best that life can offer? What is the best that life can offer we talk about how do we help them to communicate their needs, how do we help them to understand the environment, because a lot of times they are upset because they don't understand what is going on around them. How do we help them to know that some behaviors are appropriate at certain times? How do we get their brain to function better? So the first approach, like the one I do, which I believe is fundamental, is nutrition. I am a nutritionist, I'm a public health nutritionist. I have worked with these children for over 10 years, and I've come to understand that within them, it's not just physical. What is going on the inside is really deep. We used to carry out tests, we used to carry out a lot of tests, and we have found out that a lot of these children have, their systems are not just like every other person's system. There are deficiencies, there are errors, there are inborn errors, there are things that are destroyed inside, that is, that are manifesting as those behaviors. Okay, let's take for instance a child that is hyperactive, because sometimes a lot of them are hyperactive. A child that is hyperactive, how do you identify hyperactivity? When a child at 5, 6, 7, 8 years, a child cannot sit down and watch television. At 5, 6, 7 years, a child cannot sit down and eat food. They are jumping all over the place. A child, you can't take a child to maybe a gathering and they sit down and participate. At 5, 6 years, your child is climbing the windows, the chairs, everywhere, breaking things. you know Parents that have children that are hyperactive, I am sure you understand what I'm talking about. So when these children are in that mode, in a hyperactive mode, by the time we test a lot of them, we realize that they have what we call yeast overgrowth. It doesn't mean like the yeast you see, on things that are decaying. We are talking about some things that live inside of the body. There is what we call gut microbiome. This gut microbiome is a population of microorganisms that live inside everybody. We all have it. In fact, science is supporting that it should be identified as a part of our body. So every one of us have this population of microorganisms that live inside our body, that help our body to manufacture some vitamins, that help our body to produce some chemicals. And it is some of these chemicals that keep our brain functional and, regulated, motivated, you know so when we test many of these children, we find out that this microbiome is not in a good state. We find out that inside that microbiome, there are good ones and there are bad ones. So in many of these children, we realize that a lot of them have already more of the bad ones than the good ones. There are also cases of where some form of medication, like too much antibiotics, have already wiped out that population of microorganisms. So in a lot of the children, we see that a lot of the microorganisms are either missing, or that you have ones that are, the wrong ones are more in number than the good ones. And what causes this? It could be from medication, from when the child is sick. It could be from the fact that the child never got them in the first place. It could be that the child is not eating the right food that will help to grow these microorganisms. So at every point in time, we realize that when children, for instance, that have hyperactivity, we see a regular pattern whereby they do not have a good population of microorganisms. They do not have, by the time they don't have that microorganisms, they will be lacking in those vitamins that help to produce chemicals that regulate brain function. And then we kind of look at how do we now try to restore these microorganisms. And believe me, they are not far-fetched solutions. A lot of the solutions are actually in the mother's kitchen. A lot of the solutions are actually just out there. But knowledge is power. If you don't know these things, you may not, understand them. So when we talk about gut microbiome, we see that we help parents to identify some foods, some uh, items, how do I say, some foods actually, and sometimes supplements. Sometimes you need to prepare fermented foods that help the parents to restore the microorganisms. And believe me, many of these foods are actually traditional foods, but because life is becoming too on the fast lane, a lot of families are no longer incorporating these things into their diet. What are these things, you may ask? If you are in Nigeria, if you are somewhere in west in Yoruba land, you know iru. Iru is like a condiment they use in cooking soup. They are usually fermented, and this fermentation is helping to grow these beneficial microorganisms. So if as a parent you could be using this iru to prepare food, or even better still, if you are using it in a food that you might have to use it raw, you don't need to cook the food for a long time before you eat it, it's even better. If you are somewhere in the east, say Nigeria, say Enugu, Anambra, Abia, you could use, where are you from, Felix?
Better.
You're from Delta. What is a fermented food that you eat in Delta State?
Oh, I don't really know.
Okay, what do your parents, what do old women use?
We have traditional food that we normally eat.
Tell me.
You know what they call iriboto?
What do they use to prepare it?
It's normal pepper, but they don't have to cook it.
Uh-huh. Do they add like spices?
Yes.
Do it,
They will
that
add spice.
that spice that they add, do they used to soak it, like leave it to stay for some time outside?
You grind the spices with the pepper.
Uh-huh.
You
Uh-huh.
understand?
So
You
so
just
what we are saying is that some of those spices, if you know, I don't know the one, I'm supposed to know, but I don't know, I am supposed to know. So something that, if you have seen maybe older women, if there's any spice that they will leave outside and allow it to ferment, like somehow decay, that thing is not like bad decaying, it's like they are allowing those microorganisms to grow inside of it. Sometimes it is that decaying that bring out the flavor. Sometimes it's when they keep them outside. Okay, like how they soak cassava to make fufu. So that decaying is let me say, a coordinated kind of decaying is what we call fermentation. So when you,
like the way you abasha.
abacha, you don't leave abacha to decay. Abacha after cutting is ready to eat. But if it's cassava for fufu, you have to put it in water and cover it, and where there is sun, you have to leave it and cover it for like I think it used to stay like 4 to 7 days. And when
No,
it,
at night now is abasha now.
no, that one you're talking is gari, abacha.
Oh,
But the one we are talking is fufu,
okay,
the real
okay.
fufu, now the white fufu.
Yes, yes, yes. The verse
uh
7 days.
uh yes. So that process is called fermentation. And even pap, shebi dem dey make pap.
Yes,
Shey
yes.
you know say dem go put pap for water, allow am soak for 3 days, before they go grind it. So those processes are called fufu. If it's in Igbo land, we have this oil bean seed. So that oil bean seed, if you they will soak it, they will use there's a special leaf they use to cover it. When they cover it with those leaves, what it means is that those leaves are inoculating, those leaves are introducing the right microorganisms into that food, so that they will now feed on the starch that is in that food and grow and produce many of their types. So the point we are making is that depending on where you are, there are different ways that you can get probiotic. So something like pap, sometimes when people have like diarrhea, when people are purging, you can just ask them to mix small raw pap and sugar and drink it. What you are doing is that you are encouraging the microorganism in that pap to go inside and ferment the sugar and grow in your body. So what we are saying is that many of these children that have autism like this, when you look inside of them, their microorganisms are wiped off. They are no longer there. They have been destroyed either by medication or by maybe some activities. Some of them didn't get it, but most importantly, because they are not being supplied from their diet. So now, if anyone that has a child on the spectrum and they are hyperactive, we are saying that the first point of call, the first target you should look at is their microbiome, their microorganism population. And then we are also seeing that some of them that do not sleep well at night, this is a major challenge that a lot of parents are facing. Many of the children do not sleep well at night. So some of them will wake up and just be on their own. Some of them will wake up and be screaming. Some of them will wake up and be crying. And this is because they are not regulated inside. Sometimes, not sometimes, what happens is that when it is time to sleep, when you put off all the light, your body is supposed to produce what we call melatonin. That melatonin is supposed to support the body to fall asleep. But because a lot of these children, a lot of things are not regulated on the inside. When it's time to sleep, some of them will go to sleep all right, but in the middle of the night, they will wake up. This also can be traced back to that microorganisms, because there's what we call parasites. Parasites are very active around 3 a.m. That's 3 in the morning. And that is mostly when these children are awake. Especially when the moon is high, when the moon is full, that is when they reproduce. They reproduce on full moon. So when children have a lot of parasites in their system, you realize that they don't sleep beyond 3 a.m. By 3, by 2, by 4, they are awake, crying, screaming, uncomfortable. Some will be jumping, some will be laughing without any reason. And this can be traced back to what is happening on the inside of the children. So these are like two very common, challenges that parents are facing. Another challenge is sometimes they start eating things that are not food. A lot of these children, they consume, you see them biting paper. Some of them will be eating wall. They go and be removing paint from the wall and be eating it. Anyway, this one is a different reason. They go and eat the paint on the wall, they chew paper, they chew mattresses, they chew wood, they just chew everything. And we are saying that many of these challenges are not just the way they are. When we carried out a lot of tests on children that are chewing things that are not food, this condition is usually called pica, Pica is spelled Pica. So we realize that when children are eating things that are not food, we realize that they have some nutritional deficiencies. And these nutritional deficiencies are usually in the form of micronutrients like iron, like zinc. So when children have these deficiencies, we recognize them. They eat things that are not food. They identify as having a condition known as pica. This doesn't just happen only to children with autism, it can happen to anybody. It happens to adults, it happens to children, but the condition is called pica. And pica is usually as a result of nutritional deficiencies. Then the other one I said about chewing paint from the wall. Usually when a child is chewing paint from the wall, the condition could be traced to heavy metal toxicity. When a child has heavy metal toxicity on a scale of, you know, on a large extent, that child will start looking for that particular metal toxicity that is in their body. And we know that a lot of paints have lead. So many of these children are toxic with lead, with mercury, with, cadmium, very common heavy metals. A lot of children that are toxic on them, you see them being drawn to be chewing such heavy metals. They go and they eat, things that contain such heavy metals. They look out for it, they want to chew it, you know they are just drawn to eating them. So from the point of view of nutrition, these are like major challenges that these children have. They have the challenge of hyperactivity, not being able to sit down in one place. Oh my, how? Okay, so the challenge of hyperactivity, not being able to sit down in one place, not being able to sleep properly, not being able to eating non-food items. So we identified things like not being able to sit still, eating non-food items, and non-sleeping, like challenges sleeping. So these are some of the major challenges that parents face with children with autism and other developmental challenges. So from this point of view, we have seen that these challenges are things that you have to solve from within. It's a solution that has to be solved from within. We are not undermining, the impact of therapy. Sorry about that. What is this? Sorry, I was on on live on another platform and then it just went off. So we are not undermining the impact of therapy, but we are saying that these challenges can be, supported. These children can be supported. These children going through these challenges can be supported. There has been a lot of inquiries, a lot of insights, a lot of positive reports from people undergoing stem cell therapy. I want to assure you that even in the midst of this hopelessness, this therapy is showing a whole lot of hope for families with special needs children. It doesn't seem like something that is near you. It seems so far-fetched, so expensive. Believe me, it is in some places. But Brain Foods have partnered with a, a very important and highly recognized facility, and we are making this journey smoother for parents. We are making it reachable, and not just reachable but affordable in ways that you will be getting much more than you even expected. You will be so amazed at what help is out there for your child just by visiting this facility. We have partnered with this facility, and we help parents to not just access this service but also prepare you from nutritional preparation, information, access to information, and there's also the mindset to help you to put your mind together to have access to this groundbreaking intervention. At Brain Foods, we will work with you throughout the preparation, throughout the process, and even after the process. We are here to help you. We have been there. The trauma, the tantrums, the sleepless nights, we are not just telling you this from the sideline. We are telling you because it's what we have experienced, and we are using our experience to guide you. Would you rather step into a hole or follow someone who has taken the path and knows where the holes are and to avoid them? Anyways, it's a hope in the midst of hopelessness. Believe me, when you have a child on the spectrum, it looks like there is no hope. But this is real hope. If you would want to reach out to us, please kindly do so. Kindly do so using the information on our profile. You can send us WhatsApp on our phone number. You can send to our email. You can even reach us through our website, www.brainfoodsforgods.com. We honestly look forward to hearing from you. Thank you so much, and see you. Bye.